if someone wants to go ahead and learn React Native or Flutter, how much time is it going to take and what is the path to it?
The majority of app developers at these big companies function like that. They literally only do that one thing. They only know
यार ऐसा ऐप बनाना है that it gets published to Play Store and we even start earning out of it. Hi Rahul.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing great. It's a rainy day here in California.
Awesome. Would you mind giving us short information about you to our audience?
Yep, I am a software engineer based here in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley. And for the majority of my career, I have been an app developer, in particular, an Android developer. So I spent a little less than a year at a startup, and then I was an Android developer at Pinterest working on the shopping product. And then I spent almost 5 years working at Meta, where I was an Android tech lead on a couple different teams before I left to do my own company called Taro, which is about helping software engineers advance their career.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to talk about app development, Android development in particular, from an expert who has been in this domain for like a lot of years. So should we start?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So what I know when I talk about web development is that there are parts to it. Like there are front end, there are back end, there are databases. You link these things together and that's how you build a website sort of thing. Now my question to you would be, what are these different sort of components in Android or app development?
So I think they're analog that like what you described for web, the analog exists very similarly on mobile. You have a front end where you have buttons and text on the screen. You have a local database. You could actually have data stored right there on the application or on the device. And you could also have a backend where you have, on the web, you talk to some API and you get data and you can update or data. So from that perspective, it's actually quite similar. I think the one complexity or the one additional nuance with mobile is that you have to be aware of, is the data coming from local or from the API? Because on web, there's not really a notion of an offline mode, right?
Yeah.
And so on mobile, you have to be a little bit more aware that, hey, because you're mobile, you might not have internet all the time. You have to be offering functionality even if the internet is not there. And so that's like the one nuance, but I think the kind of similar architecture is there on mobile as well.
Okay, awesome. So when we talk about front end, what are different languages and frameworks one can learn to become an Android developer or app developer?
The benefit of mobile development and Android development is that it's, I think, much more streamlined what technology to use. So with Android, I would recommend Kotlin as a language. And then with iOS, I would recommend Swift. One of the things I tell people when they're learning something new is that the biggest issue with learning is often decision paralysis, where you have so many options on what to learn that then people get stuck with just evaluating all the options rather than actually doing the work. And so with web development, you have so many options on what kind of CSS framework you want to pick. Do you want to pick JavaScript or TypeScript or React or Angular, what kind of framework you want to use? There's too many options and it can get overwhelming. Whereas on mobile, it's actually much more straightforward in my opinion. On Android, just pick Kotlin and just start. It's a pretty easy language to pick up. And then on iOS, you pick Swift.
Why not Java when we talk about Android development?
Yep. So, I mean, the Android ecosystem, which is primarily controlled by Google, they are pushing very hard that Kotlin is the language of the future. So if you, I actually have a couple of videos about Kotlin on my channel, but the way I would describe Kotlin is that if Java was designed today, it would look like Kotlin. So basically Java, if you don't know, is this very old language, right? It's like literally 25, 30 years old at this point, whereas Kotlin was invented in the past 10 years. And that means that there's so many improvements and learnings that were embedded in Kotlin that you don't have in Java just because of how old the language was, how old the language is. And so definitely I would recommend Kotlin, not only for that's more future-proof, like that's what Google is pushing, and also I do think it's actually much easier to learn. It's much less verbose. So from that perspective, it's also kind of a better language to write in.
To learn Kotlin, ये एक काफी amazing कोर्स है Udemy पे जो मैं आपको रिकमेंड करूंगी. Udemy जैसा कि आप ऑलरेडी जानते होंगे एक ऑनलाइन लर्निंग प्लेटफॉर्म है जहां से आप टॉप क्वालिटी कोर्सेज कर सकते हो, वो भी काफी अफोर्डेबल प्राइस में. तो यार अब आपका ये जो कोर्स है द कंप्लीट एंड्रॉयड 12 एंड कोटलिन डेवलपमेंट मास्टर क्लास, इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा देखते हैं. सबसे फर्स्ट चीज है, आपको कोई भी प्रायर प्रोग्रामिंग एक्सपीरियंस की नीड नहीं है. आप शुरू करोगे एकदम बेसिक, जैसे कि आप देख रहे हो एंड्रॉयड स्टूडियो के सेटअप से, कोटलिन फंडामेंटल्स के बारे में सीखोगे, ऑब्जेक्ट ओरिएंटेड प्रोग्रामिंग बेसिक के बारे में सीखोगे। एंड जो सबसे सही चीज़ है यार इस कोर्स में कि आप कोर्स करते ही करते इतने सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स बना लेते हो, जैसे कि आप यहाँ पे क्विज ऐप बना रहे हो, देन आप यहाँ देखोगे आप वेदर ऐप बनाओगे, इनके एपीआईज के बारे में सीखोगे, ट्रेलो का क्लोन बना रहे होगे, सबसे सही चीज़ यार फायर बेस यूजर मैनेजमेंट। आई मीन कोर्स करते करते ही आप इतने प्रोजेक्ट्स बना लोगे कि एंड तक आपका एक काफ़ी सही पोर्टफोलियो बिल्ड हो जा रहा होता है। तो ये काफ़ी अमेजिंग चीज़ है इस कोर्स के बारे में। अब यार अगर इसके इंस्ट्रक्टर के बारे में देखना है तो इसके इंस्ट्रक्टर हैं डेनिस, 4.5 स्टार इंस्ट्रक्टर रेटिंग है इनकी, एंड इन्होंने 41 कोर्सेस अभी तक बना रखे हैं, तो ये काफ़ी सही चीज़ है। ओवरऑल कोर्स का अगर आप फीडबैक देखोगे तो काफ़ी पॉजिटिव है। कोटलिन सीखने के लिए वन ऑफ द बेस्ट कोर्स है, 50,000 प्लस स्टूडेंट्स ने यहाँ पे ऑलरेडी एनरोल करा है, एंड 4.5 स्टार इसकी रेटिंग भी है लाइक ओवरऑल कोर्स की। तो डेफिनेटली अगर आप कोटलिन स्टार्ट टू एंड सीखना चाह रहे हो, लिंक मैं आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में दे रही हूँ, जाओ चेकआउट करो एंड मेक श्योर अगर आप ये कोर्स ले रहे हो तो शुरू से एंड तक चीज़ें कंप्लीट करो, ताकि आपको पूरा ओवरऑल कोटलिन की अंडरस्टैंडिंग बहुत अच्छे तरीके से हो जाए। Got it. Can we talk about timeline? Like if one wants to learn Kotlin and or let's say Swift, how much time does it ideally takes to understand the basics and then start on building an app of yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends very much on your background, right? So if you have, 3, 4, 5 languages you've already learned from school or other projects that you've built, then I think it's actually relatively quick, especially if you're coming from a Java background. So Java is a precursor to Kotlin, and Objective-C is a precursor to Swift, right? They're kind of had a similar evolution. And so if you know those languages, literally in a couple of weeks, maybe 1 week, you can actually get up and running and start writing interesting code. But if you're brand new to the language, right, you've never written a line of code, of course, you should expect that it will take longer. There are a lot of great tutorials out there. I have a couple about Kotlin on my channel, Udemy, and LinkedIn Learning. There's a bunch of resources out there. But then I would expect it to take probably 3 to 4 weeks to just get something very basic understanding, and then of course it'll take longer and longer to gain mastery over the language.
Tell me one thing, this so you talk about Android के लिए you can learn Kotlin and for iOS you can learn Swift, but what about if you want to have cross-platform development, like build an app which can work on Android and iOS both?
Yep. Okay, so there are kind of two solutions on the cross-platform side, and just for context. So cross-platform, what that means is that you have one code base and you can basically compile that. You can turn that into both an iOS app, app for the iPhone, and for Android phones. And so the benefit of that is obviously now you have one code base instead of two. So if you're trying to build an app which is existing on both platforms, now you need one person instead of two people to do, or like at least it's half the work from that perspective. However, because these platforms are designed for the native code, right? Like the Apple and Google, the gatekeepers of the ecosystem, they designed it for Kotlin and Swift. You might find there are some quirks. There's some things that don't work as expected with cross-platform. And so I'll explain that in a bit more. But I think in terms of answering your question directly, the two most popular cross-platform frameworks are React Native, which is basically more JavaScript. So if you're a web developer, that could be a good option. And the other one that's just gaining in popularity is Flutter. And that one is written in a language called Dart, which again is somewhat similar to JavaScript, but it's invented by Google and it's a bit more modern.
So out of which these two, React Native and Flutter, which is most popular and which, like if a person just now starting on app development should learn?
Okay, yeah. So I think the answer here depends on what your goals are. And so what I mean by that is if your goal is to work at a large company, like I'm talking about, you want to work at Meta, you want to work at Google, you want to work at, Airbnb, what you're going to find is that these large companies that have money and engineering resources, they will almost always go and build a native app. And that's for two reasons. Number one, because we've been around a lot longer and the cross-platform things are a more recent innovation. And number two, they really care about experience and performance. So a 1% improvement in the Facebook app will translate to literally tens of millions of dollars, right? And so what that means is Facebook or Meta, the company, is happy to build up two different teams just to eke out that extra level of performance. They really care about that. And so because they care about quality and performance so much more than a startup might, they're going to have native developers. They're going to have people who write Kotlin code and Swift code for the iOS app. In a way that a startup, they might just say, hey, we're going to go with the simplest solution, which is the least amount of time and cost, and we're going to go ahead with Flutter. And so if your objective is to work at a big company, I would actually recommend pick a platform and go deep. go deep in Android. If you want to work at a startup and you want to have as much maximum impact, like be able to ship a lot of code, then I think, Flutter or React Native is a good option then.
Any preference out of React Native or Flutter, which is more popular these days?
I don't have too much of an opinion. I haven't done too much in either. I think that my experience just from talking to friends is that Flutter is gaining in popularity in a major way.
Okay.
And it's actually developed at least partially by Google. And so from that perspective, I feel like Flutter is actually, if I had to pick one, Flutter is more promising just because it's rapidly increasing in popularity and it's being developed by the mothership, like Google.
फ्लटर सीखने के लिए काफी सही कोर्स है फ्लटर एंड डार्ट द कंप्लीट गाइड 2023 एडिशन, जो कि आपको यूडेमी पे मिल जाएगा। अब यार ये कोर्स जैसा कि आप देखोगे 2.24 लाख स्टूडेंट्स ने ऑलरेडी एनरोल कर रखा है एंड जो कोर्स की रेटिंग है वो 4.6 स्टार है। ऑलरेडी ये नंबर्स लाइक काफी अच्छे हैं। थोड़ा सा कोर्स के बारे में देखते हैं कि 19 सेक्शन में आपका ये कोर्स पूरा डिवाइडेड है। शुरू कर रहे हो एकदम बेसिक से, फ्लटर के बेसिक्स यहाँ पे सीखोगे, रिस्पॉन्सिव यूजर इंटरफेस कैसे बनाते हैं, स्टेट मैनेजमेंट क्या होता है, यूजर ऑथेंटिकेशन कैसे करते हैं एंड जैसे कि आप देखोगे यार कि डिटेल में चीज़ें तो देख ही रहे हो, एंड तक आप ये भी देख रहे हो कि ऐप स्टोर पे चीज़ें पब्लिश कैसे करते हैं। तो ये काफ़ी सही कोर्स है, स्क्रैच से है, फुल फ्लेजेड फ्लटर कोर्स है। अगर किसी को एकदम बेसिक से चीज़ें सीखनी है एडवांस लेवल तक, तो वो इस कोर्स को आकर चेकआउट कर सकता है। एक और जो काफ़ी सही चीज़ लगती है यार मुझे इस कोर्स में, ये उसके इंस्ट्रक्टर हैं। इस कोर्स के इंस्ट्रक्टर बेसिकली मैक्समिलियन है, जो कि ऑलरेडी काफ़ी रिकॉग्नाइज्ड इंस्ट्रक्टर हैं। मैंने इनसे एक कोर्स पढ़ा था विच वाज ऑफ रिएक्ट, एंड जिस सिंप्लिसिटी एंड जिस एनर्जी से इन्होंने उस कोर्स में पढ़ाया था, एंड मतलब कोर्स ख़त्म करने के बाद जो रिएक्ट मुझे समझ आया था, वन ऑफ द बेस्ट कोर्स आई हैव एवर टुक। तो आप यहाँ पे आओ, देखो ऑलरेडी इन्होंने 57 कोर्सेज कर रखे हैं, 4.6 स्टार इंस्ट्रक्टर रेटिंग है, तो मतलब काफ़ी सही चीज़ है। ओवरऑल काफ़ी सही है यार ये फ्लटर के लिए कोर्स। आपका लिंक मैं आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में दे रही हूँ, आप आओ एंड मेक श्योर करो कि अगर आपको फ्लटर स्टार्ट टू एंड सारी चीज़ें सीखनी हैं तो आप ये पूरा कोर्स कंप्लीट करो एंड जितने प्रोजेक्ट्स रिकमेंडेड है सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स को सही तरीके से बनाओ। सो दिस इज एंटायरली व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट फ्रंट एंड पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ ऐप डेवलपमेंट, राइट? नाउ लेट्स टॉक अ बिट अबाउट बैकएंड. What is the backend path of becoming an Android developer?
Okay, so the first thing I'll say, which might be surprising to people, is that I would not recommend learning anything about backend if you're a mobile developer, at least not initially. Because I think, again, going back to what I said earlier, the number one reason why people don't make progress when they're learning a new technology or learning coding in general is that they get overwhelmed by the number of things to learn. And so if you're starting out and you're a beginner, then I would tell you very explicitly, don't worry at all about any kind of database or backend or API call. Just build an interesting local utility app. And local utility app means, okay, you do something with the buttons and the text on the screen, and you do some computation or you do something interesting and you spit out an answer. There's no need to talk to a backend. And so you can actually do a lot of interesting things if you keep that as a constraint. Of course, I mean, as you mature as a developer, you're going to have to start learning more about the backend, but that would be my recommendation. Try to avoid learning that for as long as possible. Okay, so now when you do get to learning it, I think there are two
just a question here. Before you start, just an interesting question I had was, so is it like a person just knowing front-end part, let's say Kotlin or any sort of React Native or Flutter, can say that I'm an Android developer and he doesn't know backend?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, not only can you say that you're an Android developer, the majority of app developers at these big companies function like that. They literally only do that one thing. They only know Kotlin and they know how to put things on the screen. They know how to make an API call maybe, but they don't touch the backend at all. And so I think having that depth, that specialization is totally fine, totally normal, and it won't hold you back in your career.
That's awesome. So even before going into the backend part of it, since I have understood that app development can be just developing the front-end part of it. Also, when we talk about, let's say, some projects for app development or Android development, what is your suggestion? Can you say some basic 4 or 5 projects which a person can start and get a good hold of app development?
The way I think about this is view each unit of learning as a Lego block. A Lego block meaning something that you have a unit of knowledge that you can now build up on top of each other, and you can reuse that Lego block for pretty much every app you build. Yeah. And so I break it down into kind of 3 distinct steps. Step number 1 is really, really basic. Can I put things on the screen and do something interesting with the data that's inputted. And so my number one app that I recommend here is a tip calculator. Just can you put buttons and text on the screen, collect the data, and then do something with it. So if you can do that, you already have a very basic understanding of how the UI, the user interface, works on Android or iOS. Right. And then second Lego block is a scrolling list of items. And if you look at pretty much any mobile app out there, 95% of everything you interact with is a scrolling list of items, right? Like a list of pictures or videos or text. And so if you can master, I have a list of 100 items, and I'm going to scroll through them either vertically or horizontally. That's going to be reused again and again and again in pretty much every app you build. So that's like Lego number 2, unit number 2. And then finally, unit number 3 is being able to talk to the internet. So either collecting data from some API or being able to fetch like content from a web page and then displaying it in your app. Because I think so much of our world today is powered by the internet. And so being able to have a mobile app which uses the internet effectively is, again, something that you're going to do again and again. And so that'd be kind of the 3-step process. Number 1, just very basic UI. Number 2, building a scrolling list of items. And then number 3, doing something interesting with the internet.
So this is one thing I have heard very often, that people say that app development is little difficult than web development. So is this understanding or rumor, is it true?
Okay, so I would say that app development in some ways is harder, in some ways it's easier. Okay, so what I mean by that is it's easier, I think, because of there are fewer decisions to make. And if you're starting out with a new technology, a new framework, the number one reason why people fail is because they get overwhelmed. On mobile, the beautiful thing is that it's much more standardized, right? Google and Apple have a control over the ecosystem, and they tell you, hey, here's what you should use. On web, there's no central gatekeeper. And that means that you have kind of the wild west of different technologies to learn. So from that perspective, I do think that mobile is actually simpler to pick up because it's more streamlined what you should do. I think mobile is more complicated, more difficult to learn for 2 reasons. Number 1 is that the debug cycle, the ability to get something published, is actually much longer on mobile because there's no gatekeeper, right? Because there is a gatekeeper on mobile, Google and Apple, they won't publish your app unless you submit it for review and have a bunch of assets and have a screenshot and all this other stuff, right? And so it might take you a week in order to update your app or publish your app. Whereas on web, me or you, in 5 minutes, I guarantee in 5 minutes, we could spend right now and publish a website that anyone in the world can access. Instead of 5 minutes, it'll take a whole week to get something published in mobile.
Fun conversation I had with you. This also, very one interesting question is coming to my mind is that when you publish your app to, let's say, App Store or Play Store, you can also, like I've heard this a lot, that people can just build an app, ship it to Play Store and App Store, and also start earning money out of it. Like build an app in that way. Can you give us some scenarios like how one can think that in mind as well when we are building an app? कि यार ऐसा app बनाना है that it gets published to Play Store and we even start earning out of it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the short answer is that that's very, very hard to do. Okay. I think that building an app which gets a lot of people to download it and install it is actually not that hard. If you work at it and you spend a lot of time and you keep making updates, like every week you publish an update to the app, I think within a year or 2, you can probably get at least 1 or 2 apps that have 10,000 downloads or more. And that starts to look very impressive for a resume or for applying for a job.
Yeah.
However, the issue is that what matters for making money is you need to have people who are coming back to the app on a regular basis. So it's not about the number of installs. It's about the number of weekly active or monthly active people who are opening up the app. And then typically the way you would make money is either you would have ads, like there are some ad platforms that you can integrate in, or you can kind of sell things through the mobile app. And I think in either case, unless you break into like the hundreds of thousands of people who are using your app on a regular basis, it really is not that meaningful. Like even if you have an app with 10,000 people, if you just put ads into it, it's going to be kind of trivial. Like it's going to be very low, the amount of money you can actually make, like maybe a couple dollars per month. And so in terms of money, in my opinion, the much more lucrative option, the much more safe option is to build up apps for the purpose of building a portfolio of your work and leverage that into a real job. Because I actually don't know, I know maybe 2 or 3 people in my network who actually make more than $1,000 a month from their mobile apps. The vast majority of people just do it for fun and also to get jobs.
Awesome. I think it's a straightforward answer, hard answer, but yeah, I think since you told it already from what you have seen in your environment, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, just focus on the things that bring you joy, the things that you care about, things that you want to see built. I think it's very hard to make a sustainable income based off of a mobile app.
Got it. Yeah, I had very fun conversation with you, Rahul. Thank you so much for coming in and talking in so much detail about Android app and iOS development.
Yeah, it was my pleasure talking. Thanks, Anshika, for having me. And if people want to connect more, I'm super active on LinkedIn, and I also have a YouTube channel, and also I'm running this company called Taro. So we can leave links for all of that in the description.
Sure. So guys, all of these links are in description, and I'll meet you again in some another video, some another content like this. And make sure you do hit like and comment that how did you like the video and have you watched till the end or not. That's it for this video. We'll meet in another video. Till then, bye-bye. Thanks, Rahul. Bye.
Bye, everyone. See you. Thank you. Bye.